My name is Ryan Pintado-Vertner. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Smoketown. We're a consultancy that helps mission-driven brands, especially in the food system, flourish by helping them make the right marketing choices, innovation choices, strategy choices that not only maximize their own capacity to reach their goals and objectives, but do that in a way that brings their ecosystem along with them. What drew me to attend this year's meeting, this is my first time, and I was on the fence about it, and then when I paid closer attention and realized how many people that I have a ton of respect for were gonna be here, that was the deciding factor. It was realizing that folks like Tina Owens and the Alexanders from Alexander Family Dairy and the folks at just like a long list of people who I know, trust, whose products I buy. I was like, I have to be there. And then it didn't hurt that this year we got a chance to visit White Oak Pastures, which is an iconic OG in the latest resurrection of the regenerative movement, and that just was icing on the cake for me. Here's the reality with regenerative agriculture. It is such an enormous undertaking that it cannot be accomplished without collaboration being our superpower. There's no player in this ecosystem, there's no player in the food system that's capable of moving the needle alone. There's not even 2 or 3 or 5 that are capable of moving the needle alone. I literally don't care how big the organization is, how much buying power they have. There's just not one player or even a handful who can accomplish what needs to be done, converting 40+% of arable land to regenerative practices, which is what Project Drawdown thinks we need to get to minimize to maximize our ability to sort of avoid the climate cliff. No handful of businesses or organizations can pull that off. So the most important contribution that any network can make to accomplishing that is about enabling collaboration, making it possible for large numbers of folks in a coalition of some kind to move together and to get the work done in a collaborative way. So to me, that's the bottom line of this work, and that's the bottom line for why a network like this needs to exist. I am enormously grateful for the training that I got at big CPG companies. When I joined the first big CPG company in my career, I frankly thought I'd be there like 2 or 3 years, and then I'd get out and I'd go do movement work. I'd go do work that was closer to my heart and closer to where I believed my mark would be left in the world. And then what surprised me is that what big food and big CPG companies are exceptionally good at actually is understanding human behavior, understanding what it is that motivates purchase, what it is that makes us tick, why we pay attention when we do and why we don't pay attention when we don't. And that ability that I interpret as empathy, that ability to really walk in someone's shoes and see the world the way they see it and then make decisions on the basis of that deep understanding, is an exceptional capability that big CPG companies, for better or worse, have perfected over the decades that they've built their skill set. And I, frankly, was blessed to learn from them and see that as a core part of what the big food industry can bring to the table as we're trying to regenerate the food system. That's what I think is working. What's definitely not working is the definition of success. In big CPG, and frankly in most of capitalism, the definition of success is maximizing wealth creation and maximizing that wealth creation by externalizing a bunch of the negative impacts of that wealth accumulation, and doing that forever on top of finite resources, to infinitely grow wealth, infinitely drive revenue growth on top of a finite set of resources that are actually collective. And that's a terrible model. It's a terrible way to approach how to steward land, how to steward businesses, how to build business. The unfortunate thing is that big CPG companies are using that exceptional ability to walk in people's shoes, to understand folks and channel that empathy. They're using that to these problematic ends of maximizing growth, maximizing shareholder return infinitely with externalized costs and externalized negative impacts. That's just a terrible way to leverage actually what's ultimately a pretty extraordinary and important and, I might even say beautiful capability of like being able to be empathetic and teach others to be empathetic and have that be, foundational to the way business leaders think. Here's the key to meeting consumers where they are. And this is gonna sound like kind of a diss on humanity, but the reality is that we are self-interested creatures, period. Like that's baked into the human condition. We make decisions that are gonna be best for us, and then we make decisions that are gonna be best for our family, and then after that, we take into consideration what the impact is gonna be for other people. Does every single human being operate in that way 100% of the decisions that they make? No, of course not. Like I'm painting with a broad brush here. But the reality when we're really like brutally honest with ourselves about the hierarchy of considerations, gosh, like what's this mean for me and what's this mean for the people that I care about is at the top of the list. And so some folks regret that reality in the way human beings are wired and push against it and try to introduce things and frame ideas in ways that appeal to altruism. And to be clear, altruism is deeply important philosophically, morally, and for other reasons. I believe that, we need to continue to bend the moral arc of the universe towards justice. That's important work. And also, what's true is that if our intention is to scale something from a business standpoint, and scaling it requires consumers to make different decisions, gosh, we have to go with consumer behavior if we intend to scale it on a short timetable, which is the reality of what has to happen with regenerative agriculture. We need to go with how folks are naturally wired to think rather than pushing against it, at least as part of the strategy. And so what that means is it doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about the amazing things that we're doing for soil health. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about the amazing things that we do to sequester carbon in the soil. What it means is that we have to figure out how to talk about the work that we do in ways that appeal fundamentally to what the average person cares about when they wake up in the morning, which is what's better for me and what's better for my family. If we can't frame what we talk about in those terms, I'm not saying that it won't work. I'm just saying we're swimming upstream, which takes more effort, takes more time, and I'm just not sure that from a planetary standpoint we have more time, right? Like we've got to find the short path. So that's the way I see it. It's a little bit of a pessimistic take, and there's not a lot. There's some folks who get frustrated when I say that, but it's the reality as I see it. So here's the thing. If ultimately we need to find a way to appeal to how folks are naturally wired and what they wake up in the morning caring about, what that means for regeneration is us leading with the nutrient density that regenerative practices predictably, demonstrably, scientifically create, right? Like we know for a fact that there's a direct relationship between soil health and plant health, which means there's a direct relationship between soil health and plant nutrition, which means that there's a direct relationship between soil health, plant nutrition, and our own nutrition because, it is actually true that we are what we eat. So given that there's extensive scientific literature to demonstrate that regenerative practices are going to produce more nutrient-dense food. And given that there's critical keystone players in this ecosystem like Audacious that are making it possible to test those nutrients at scale at relatively low cost so that the average farmer can do this on a regular basis, that I think sets the table for being able to frame regenerative practices in terms that appeal to what moms and dads and folks wake up in the morning caring about, which is like, am I making the right choices for myself, and am I making the right choices for my kids? Nutrition, I'm diehard, completely convinced, is the way that we'll scale this movement that will also have the benefit of saving the planet.